What's up, everyone? This is Derek Bros with the Conscious Resistance Network. Today is Sunday, December 24th, 2017. This is a special Christmas Eve edition. I always forget what day it is. I don't really pay much attention to Christmas, but it's Christmas Eve, and I'm going to see family later. But I figured, why not sit here and talk to you guys about the crazy world we live in, and maybe talk about some solutions. This is episode number 80. That's right. Over the past 4 years, I've successfully completed 80 episodes. Quite a record. But we're getting more consistent now, and I hope you guys will continue to tune in. Before we get started, please share this out on your timelines, any groups that you're a part of, any pages that you admin. Let people know they can tune in. Today we're talking about Facebook depression, about border surveillance, about free speech, and lots more important topics that you need to know about, and your friends probably want to know about. So go ahead and share this out to them, and we'll be right back. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is the Conscious Resistance Live.
Wondering how I got into this mix.
Welcome back to the Conscious Resistance Live. Once again, my name is Derek Bros with the Conscious Resistance. Thank you guys for tuning in, whether you're listening from The Mind Unleashed, Wake Up News, the Conscious Resistance, or if you're watching us later on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. As I said, it's Christmas Eve, and there's lots of things I want to cover today. I'm going to keep this short, though. I got to go see family in about 20-25 minutes, so we're going to go through a few different articles, and I have my buddies with me today, Johnny and Jeffrey, who are running the behind-the-scenes production, so it's making it easier for me to focus on the news. And we've also got Damon from the UK, who's going to be sharing the articles, so our whole team is here, and it's exciting, and we're really thankful. And if you've never tuned into the show before, please give our page a like, follow us on Facebook. Also, maybe if you want to get away from Facebook, check out YouTube. If you want to get away from YouTube, check us out on DTube and Steam it, and you can always go to our website, theconsciousresistance.com. So yeah, thank you guys for being here, and once again, if you want to comment below, let people know where you're listening from. That's a helpful way for us to find each other. Part of our efforts here and our goal here is to bring people together, to help you find people in your local area that you can build community with, and you can actually start focusing on the solutions to the problems that we're going to discuss today. So comment below, let people know where you're listening from, and if you see someone near you, say what's up, contact them, make some new friends, and share this out. But yeah, let's get into it. We're going to get into the first story, which is something I wrote the other day called "Why in the Hell Are We Still Using Facebook?" as I broadcast to you via Facebook. And that's sort of an example of this double-edged sword, the sort of double-edged tool that this is. Well, really, all tools are, they're neutral. They can be used for good or for bad. The internet can be a place where you just watch mindless cat videos and food videos and just distract yourself, or it can be a tool to share information, to broadcast knowledge like we're doing here. And I was able to book a whole national tour promoting very important messages because of Facebook. But despite the good, there's also the negative. There are the connections between the CIA and the NSA and Facebook and things of that sort, surveillance. But what we're talking about today is dealing more exclusively with an emotional outlook, an emotional stance. How Facebook is affecting us psychologically, spiritually, and emotionally. And the interesting thing is Facebook actually just admitted that their website does cause depression, periods of sadness, envy, and things of this sort of just discomfort in our life, stress in general. And again, this tool can be used for anything, right? I think based on what they've found and what other studies have found, it really is about how you use Facebook. But for some reason, the interesting thing is a number of these studies, and I'll get into the details in just a moment, a number of these studies, they actually compared people who were just using the internet as a whole and people who are using Facebook. And these depression and stress and loneliness and envy, it was very exclusive to Facebook. This isn't happening just anywhere else on the internet. This is happening to people who are using Facebook. So Facebook actually admitted this in a new blog post they posted last week, and it said, in general, when people spend a lot of time passively consuming information, reading but not interacting with people, they report feeling worse afterward. Facebook wrote in a blog post titled, "Hard Questions, Is Spending Time on Social Media Bad for Us?" Facebook mentions a University of Michigan study titled "Passive Facebook Usage Undermines Effective Well-Being." And in this study, students were randomly assigned to read Facebook for 10 minutes. And some of the students only scrolled through the timeline, and they reported feeling worse at the end of the day compared to students who also talked to friends and posted on Facebook. So what some of these studies are saying is it's the way you use the tool. So for someone like me who uses it to broadcast information, to share knowledge and share information as a journalist and as an activist, I don't really do a lot of scrolling through other people's feeds and really even too much heavily interacting. I follow a few people here and there, but for the most part, I am broadcasting. And based on these studies and what Facebook's now admitting, it can lead to periods of depression and loneliness and things of that sort. And the thing is, it's true. I have experienced that. That's why I'm not currently on Facebook. I saw one of the comments below said, "Hey, we've missed you on Facebook." Yeah, I've been taking a break. I'm only using the page to broadcast this show. But other than that, I decided I need to get away from Facebook because it's stressful and it's really not good for me. So the more I looked into this, though, you can go back as far as 2013 and find a number of studies that have been pointing at this, that Facebook is really harming us. Reuters UK reported that a group of researchers from the Institute of Information Systems at Berlin's Humboldt University found that, quote, 1 in 3 people felt worse after visiting the website and more dissatisfied with their lives, while people who browsed without contributing were affected the most. One of the researchers told Reuters, "We were surprised by how many people have a negative experience from Facebook, with envy leaving them feeling lonely, frustrated, or angry." Another 2014 study published in Computers and Human Behavior said that most users are not very social when using social media, instead choosing to passively consume information. And they said that this leaves users feeling unfulfilled and dissatisfied. They get a decline in mood after spending time scrolling through Facebook. And this decline in mood was, again, not prevalent during browsing the internet in general. The researchers believe that Facebook leaves people feeling as if they've wasted their time, and this causes them to be sad for being unproductive. So they get on Facebook, maybe looking for some sort of validation or some kind of experience, and they get on there and you just scroll through and you realize, like, wow, I've been reading about somebody else's lives for like 2 hours. I haven't got anything done. And then you're kind of disappointed or you're upset in yourself. And I guess that contributes to this. Another 2016 study from Current Opinion in Psychology found that it contributes to envy of friends and could lead to depression. The study argued that using Facebook regularly can have a negative impact on a person's well-being. Exposure to the carefully curated images from others' lives leads to negative self-comparison, and the sheer quantity of social media interaction may detract from a more meaningful real-life experience. So, and there's a couple more in there. I'm going to just kind of let this one go. I think you guys get the point by now. But Damon's posted that link there. What do you guys think? Comment below. We're going to cover a couple of the comments as we move on, but comment below. Let us know what. Obviously, you're listening to me on Facebook right now. I'm using this as a tool, as a platform. But I also support Steemit, and as soon as Steemit goes live and I can go through there, I probably won't be doing this through Facebook anymore. If you haven't checked out Steemit, it's STEEMIT.com. Damon, please post that link below. And go ahead and join there because, I'm making money using social media instead of giving Facebook my time, my money, and getting depressed. I've been a lot happier away from Facebook. I do plan to come back to continue interacting with people, but I'm going to do so with the awareness that this tool is likely causing me some harm, and it's probably doesn't feel that, I can recognize the symptoms that they're describing are things that I've felt in my life because of the way I've used Facebook. And the funny thing is their solution is basically use more Facebook in a different way. They're like, oh, well, you're just using it wrong. You need to use it more, but be more social, and then you'll be happier. I don't know if that's the answer, guys. But let's move on to the next story. This is one I touched on last week in our show, and I finally wrote the article, so I'm just going to briefly mention it again because it's worth your time. And it's from the antimedia.org. It's called EPA Contradicts Its Own Research, Claims Roundup Poses No Risk to Humans. And it's on Monday, this past Monday, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency issued a new report declaring that the weed killer glyphosate does not pose any meaningful risk to humans, but the report is not likely to end the debate over the safety of the world's most widely used pesticide. Now, glyphosate is a chemical that is created in part by Monsanto. Roundup is Monsanto's biggest product. It's used all around the world, and that's what glyphosate is within it. So people use this to spray all over their plants and their crops, and the GMO crops use glyphosate because they're glyphosate resistant. So there's a direct connection between Monsanto, this pesticide, and genetically modified foods and other issues. Essentially, what this story talks about is how we've had for the last 3 years certain agencies in the world, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, which comes from the World Health Organization, saying that glyphosate causes cancer in people. And then you have the EPA, you have the European Food Safety Authority, and the European Union saying, no, that's not true, it's not carcinogen, it doesn't hurt anybody. So different agencies in the world accusing each other of being bought out and things like that. It's been really interesting to watch and also very confusing. If you're a consumer, like, you want to believe that you can trust the government. I think that most people don't, which I kind of am thankful for because I think that's a step in the right direction. But it can be really difficult. Like, you have this agency saying it's good for you, this one saying no, it's bad. And then they also did show, Reuters did some good work showing that the IRAC actually did seem to have a bias towards making the glyphosate be cancerous, because they actually did avoid, they changed some information, they changed some slides before they released their final study on that. And again, it's a little bit confusing, so go ahead and read the article. My point is, though, you look a little bit further back in history, and I saw a really awesome in-depth report from this in These Times magazine called How Monsanto Captured the EPA and Twisted Science. It's in the article linked there. And this investigation basically does a great job of outlining the history of glyphosate and Monsanto, how they were able to influence and subvert regulatory agencies in order to make glyphosate the most widely used pesticide in the world. And that at least since 1970s, there have been people saying, in the EPA themselves, saying that there might be cancer coming from glyphosate, but this investigation shows that Monsanto was able to get involved and basically change the science and change the minds of the EPA. And since then, the EPA has sworn up and down it's safe for Americans to use and for people around the world. It doesn't cause cancer. So now, according to the U.S. government, according to the European Union, according to several different agencies, glyphosate, Monsanto's big product, does not cause cancer. And according to the World Health Organization's Institute for Research on Cancer, it does. You guys decide who you want to trust. But yeah, check that link out if you want to know more about it. Moving right along, the next story I want to talk about, these two next ones are a little bit more related to politics in the sense of bills that are going on. And I mean, I've been doing this for 7 years now as an activist and 4 serious years as a journalist, and it's really difficult for me to know what to do about a lot of these things, because it's like I find out that there's a new bill going on, right? And it's about to increase surveillance to some mass degree, right? Or it's about to militarize the hell out of the border, and you know, I mean, the things that we're headed to are just insane, right? And I can come out here and I can talk to you guys and tell you about it, but I don't really know what to tell you to do. I know that the answer is ultimately to stop believing in these people and stop giving them your energy and your time and your power, and to build locally and to exit from these systems and to build new things. I know that that's the answer, but it's difficult to tell people that in a real simple meme or like, you know, just some catchy phrase or something that people enjoy on the internet. And I don't really feel like me telling you, oh, by the way, you can call your senators and email them and hope that that does something. Like, I feel like that's just wasted energy. But I know sometimes you just want to do something. You're looking for a solution. And you're like, well, don't tell me all this madness is going on. There's surveillance and the border is getting heavily secure, militarized, and police are getting retina scanners and facial recognition and drones. I mean, it's insane, right? The solution is simply to stop funding these people, to stop giving them your money, to stop supporting these systems, to stop relying on them to tell you what food is good for you, to tell you how to live, you know, tell you where to live, and all these sort of things. We are capable of organizing our own lives and really living a much better life. I truly believe that. And it's going to happen when we stop believing these things. So I'm just saying that before we get into these stories, because the answer isn't going to be to call anybody and to tell them about it. You know, I see these things and I don't want you to just take them in and say, well, okay, that's happening, I can't do anything about it. No, you can do something about it. You can do so much about it. You literally have to just start getting active. I don't care how old you are. I email and correspond with people across the spectrum, the age spectrum and background, and really around the world, to help build this concept called freedom cells that you can find out more about at freedomcells.org. But the goal is just to decentralize, to unplug, and to start getting to know each other as neighbors, as friends, and brothers and sisters, and really working to change the world by changing ourselves and helping each other get there. And that doesn't really, you know, that doesn't fit on a nice meme. It's not easy and convenient. You might feel better if you go call a senator or call, you know, someone, or do something like that, because you're like, okay, I did a physical action, right? That meant something. But there's so much more power in removing that authoritarian mindset out of your mind and claiming your own power. There's so much more power in taking your money out of the U.S. Federal Reserve note or whatever central bank currency you have wherever you're listening from, and investing in an alternative currency or a barter network or cryptocurrency. There's so much more power in building in your garden, building in your community, than there is stepping into a ballot box or, you know, a voting booth and all these kind of things. It may feel like you're taking a physical action, so you feel validated in some sense, but you're really not doing much. And yeah, so let's talk about this, and maybe we'll focus on how we could do something about it. First one relates to the Trump administration. The Trump administration is trying to push through an extension of a controversial spying measure, and this is actually, I wrote this article twice on Thursday, because when I wrote this, it was about to happen. It happened. They approved the bill. It passed. So I had to update it. I don't think this is the updated version, but the information is still the same. Essentially, there's something called FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and it was passed in the 70s. Let me see if I get the exact date. Yeah, in the 1978, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978, and essentially, like we've been told time and time again, the government needs access to people's private information to stop terrorism, to stop communism, to stop global warming, to stop Mexicans from stealing your jobs, whatever they need to say, right, to get you to support this. So the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, when people talk about the deep state, shadow government, New World Order, what that concept means is that there is an unelected force and group of people that exist and that are there having powerful positions and influential decisions that affect our lives, but that they don't get voted in, and none of us even really know who they are because they're just bureaucrats and people that are entrenched in the system. When people talk about that, the deep state, the FISA amendment and the FISA court is the deep state. This is literally a secret court that we don't know anything about. We don't know who the judges are. We're not allowed to see the rulings, to see the cases that are presented in front of them. But the government, the FBI, and other agencies, the NSA, can go to the FISA court and basically request all kinds of things. And the judge, there's supposedly some level of discretion. They have to prove something. But we really don't know that. I mean, it's a secret court. We're just supposed to trust them when they say, oh, by the way, that secret court decided to do this and it was justified under some law that you can't know about. But we're just trust us. It's all good. But Section 702 of FISA specifically has always been debated because it comes up for review constantly. Since 9/11, of course, 9/11, the 24/7 excuse for everything, they instituted the Patriot Act, and along with that, Section 702 of FISA was allowing the NSA now, and has been, to collect emails, browser history, chat logs of Americans. Section 702 also allows other agencies, including the FBI, to search through the data without a warrant. These are called backdoor searches. And we also found out, thanks to Edward Snowden, that Section 702 of the FISA Amendment, it also authorizes 2 internet surveillance programs known as PRISM and Upstream that you may have heard about. PRISM gathers messaging data sent via Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, other tech companies, so all that stuff you're sending out, PRISM's collecting that. While Upstream is actually tapped into what is known as the backbone of the internet, the fiber that really runs under the ocean, under the ground. They're able to literally tap into that and get the information before it goes elsewhere. So the idea that we have security is really, it's hard to believe that. But these things are allowed to happen under Section 702 of the FISA Amendment. And basically, there was a fight for it. Rand Paul and Mike Lee, Ron Wyden, and some other senators who are typically against surveillance from the left and the right came together and they said, hey, we're not going to support this. But as typical, the way the government works is they say, the government's about to shut down. If they don't pass this bill by Friday, everything's going to shut down. The sky is going to fall. The military is going to fall apart. North Korea is going to come hack us with bitcoins and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? They say whatever they can to get you afraid and worried and fear that even if you have no idea what the bill's about, you're like, oh my God, I really hope they pass that bill because I'm feeling stressed because they're telling me on TV that things might shut down. We should celebrate the shutdown if it were ever to happen. And by the way, just side note, did this used to happen? I feel like this never used to happen, but all of a sudden the last 4 or 5 years, every year, it's like, oh, the government might shut down towards the end of the year. It's the same thing. I think that this is just some sort of ruse that they do to get people all amped up and stressed and in a state of imbalance, but it also could be a sign of the fact that the system is collapsing under its own weight and that they have to keep reauthorizing these programs because nobody wants to go for them. But the point of the story is it happened. They approved it, and it was a temporary measure, so they're going to have to come back in January, I think January 10th, because all the politicians are on break now. They're getting to celebrate with their families after they rob you blind and institute surveillance measures. But now that they're out there, it's basically, they're going to come back on January 15th, January 10th or something, and they're going to vote on it again, and they're going to figure out if they want to extend it indefinitely, because that's what the debate is about. Is it going to get extended indefinitely? Some people want to reform FISA, some people just want to get rid of it, on and on and on. I'm going to start to wrap up here because I got my mom calling me, and I know I have to get going soon. But the next one I want to mention, again, another bill, but it's worth your time to know about, the newest border screen bill. If you paid attention to this show, by the way, somebody was asking, who is this guy? My name is Derek Bros, and this is the Conscious Resistance Live. Welcome. But on the border, this is what we can expect. Biometric screening in the form of retina scanning, facial recognition cameras, up to 100 miles within the border, surveillance drones flying over, social media spying of anybody who crosses the border. They can already take your phone, they can already take your cell phone, license plate readers, and armed guard towers. These are the things that are included in pretty much every version of the border bills. That one is called Building America's Trust. I love these names, right? It's just, they're just so freaking ridiculous. But now here's just a sample of what these bills include for those of you who think that this might be, a little extreme, that maybe I'm getting worried about nothing. collect biometric information from all people who exit the U.S., including U.S. and foreign citizens, collect DNA and other biometric information from, quote, any individual filing an application, petition, or other request for immigration, benefit, or status, share biometric information about immigrants with the FBI, Defense Department, and State Department, review social media accounts of visa applicants, and deploy drones at the U.S. border. That is what this Making America Great, Building America's Trust, this whole border thing, you know, it's another fear campaign, right? Before it was a terrorist, now it's the immigrant. It's an age-old campaign that we're very aware of, but for some reason people are falling for the same old trap. Be afraid of the others. These other people, they're not like you. You know, where have we heard this before? You know, everywhere, every dictator, every tyrant. And for those of you listening, it's not just Trump, in case you haven't figured that out yet. This isn't an anti-Trump show. This is an anti-all-of-them show, because they're all full of it. And any person who wants to rule over your life doesn't deserve your respect. They don't believe in you. They don't respect you enough to let you decide your own decisions. And even the best ones, like Obama, some people are still hanging on to this idea. I wish we still had Obama. Dude, he bombed and killed people just like Trump is doing. Trump's doing it worse, yes, but Obama was also imprisoning whistleblowers. He was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So they're all trash. The last article I'm going to mention from my work is an essay I wrote. I'm not even going to get into it because just if it applies to you, go for it. It's called Removing the Alt-Right Infection from the American Libertarian Movement, and it's on theconsciousresistance.com. It's what it sounds like. I've been involved with the libertarian anarchist movement in America for the last 5, 6, 7 years, and I've gotten involved in different ways, and this is me just commenting how certain individuals, and I call them out by name, Walter Block, Stefan Molyneux, Christopher Chase Rachels, and Hans Hermann Hoppe, have specifically misguided and misdirected people into a very dangerous area, had them abandoning their principles and believing in false narratives that don't lead to freedom and in fact create more division. And I'll just say this the way I end this article that I think it really will make sense to you. It should be clear that the alt-right's preference, no, never mind. The alt-right claims that state violence or private violence is justifiable and necessary against political opponents who have ideologies that are threatening or dangerous. This is going to tie in perfectly with the next story, our final story. According to their logic, the ideologies of our political enemies, whether it's communism, environmentalism, or whatever, are viewed as acts of aggression themselves, and thus we should be justified in being able to use violence against our enemies. Of course, this is not going to lead to much, thriving humanity. If we follow this line of reasoning, we will have constant conflict, and we will see the end of all the progress which liberty and the sort of freedom mindset has allowed humankind to experience. So we must continue to be on guard against the undercover statists and authoritarians. So if you're involved in the libertarian movement, if you're interested in the alt-right, etc., things of that sort, check out that essay. I think you would be interested in that. It's pretty long. It's about 5,000 words. I put a lot of time and energy into it. I think you might enjoy it, though. So check that one out. And now we're going to wrap up with just one final story, which kind of connects to that. And this is just, these are things that I want you to think about. And I know there's a delay on the video, so we're going to maybe let it catch up for a moment, because if you have any questions before we go, I'd love to answer them briefly. But some of you may remember or heard of Evergreen State College in Seattle, I believe, in the Seattle area, Washington area. And you may have heard of biology professor Brett Weinstein, and basically his dealing with some of the students there. So I'm sure some of you have seen the videos there of the students, yelling at the professors, yelling at one of the principal or the dean or something, and just attacking people. And it's just pretty crazy, right? And they're accusing everybody of being racist or just ignoring them. And it's obvious that the faculty have no control of the college campus, that it's the students just running things. And it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy to see. If you haven't looked much into it, these articles, the first one is coming from the Quillette. It's called How Activists Took Control of a University, the Case Study of Evergreen State. I highly recommend reading that as well. And then we have another link, which is actually the main one. It's called Bonfire of the Academies, where Professor Weinstein and his wife, Heather Hain, I think, who's also a teacher there, was formerly a teacher there at Evergreen State College. They both discussed for the first time, like in detail, they've written down their accounts of how things went down. These are very important information. Now, I want to just go over this last thing here that the author of the first article really looks at. He examines the situation, how it came to be, how the faculty basically have been putting in the heads of the students that, if you don't like something, you should just shut it down. You should just, go. They're putting these kind of things in their mind, and then all of a sudden the students go extreme with it, and they take over the campus, and the authorities have no power, no control. It's pretty sad to see. But what the first author mentions, I'm just going to read this briefly. He says, "What does Evergreen teach us about the mechanisms that produce this type of situation? While some of the teachers' allies' actions were traditional exertions of power, There are three mechanisms worth examining closer, I think, as much more subtler forms of power that tie directly into ideology. Now, these are really interesting. The first form of power that this person said the students use is a binary, which means, two positions. It's either this or that, of allies and enemies that's vaguely defined but emotionally and normally charged. So, we're the good guys, you're the enemy. That's what they, that's how you establish these things. Just like as I said, we're seeing the immigrants or the Americans, or you're white nationalists or you're this. You have to create two poles, polar opposites, and make people choose one. Number two, a notion of multiple truths and the sanctity of subjective experience that's selectively applied. So basically, multiple truths. This is people who don't believe in any sort of objective truth, any morality. Anything can be. This is what some people refer to as the postmodernists. They think that they can corrupt, truths. Some would say universal truths and things of that sort. And that subjective experience, the individual, whatever they're feeling, whatever they express, is, the law. So if I say, like, no, you offended me, you're racist, you're violent, or whatever, that should be a truth. Nobody should be able to deny that, and it should have effects on other people. And that's where, again, where we get back to well, no, they hurt me because of their language. Now they're against us. They're the others. We're on our side. And the third notion is a notion of an extremely powerful but intangible power structure. So they basically are fighting an ally that they don't necessarily, an enemy that they can't necessarily see or define. It's very loosely defined, and to me, it's almost, this is why some people would say, like, the Antifas, the social justice warrior extremes on the left are the exact opposite, the mirror image of the extreme alt-right on the other side, because both groups sort of have this loose kind of ideology, but then they can instantly turn against any other person, like, no, you're not one of us, you're not with us, and it just eats itself alive at the end. And I think that based on what we've seen here at the university and elsewhere, it can get pretty dangerous. It can get freedom, free speech becomes threatened very quickly in these kind of experiences. And I think it's a dangerous place if not only our universities and if our country and our lives and our world go in that direction where it becomes so difficult to even speak and to say, hey, I think I disagree with you. Can I express myself? Because that's what happened on this campus. That wasn't even allowed anymore. Discussion of any kind was basically put down, and that's a dangerous mindset to be on. But those are the stories I got for you guys this week. I really appreciate your time. I'll check out the comments here real quick. I see a couple of people. Evolution is what we need. Revolution is just going round and round. Absolutely, I agree with that, John. What's up, man? I remember we met him in Michigan on the tour. And yeah, thank you. I don't know if there's any other comments, if you guys caught any ones that I didn't see. But as always, I'm thankful to you. I want to remind you guys, you can go to theconsciousresistance.com to keep up with all of our work. We're constantly putting out new articles, new information, new essays, new interviews. And if you want to support me directly, you can go to my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/DerekBros. Basically what that means is, if you support my efforts to do this, to release all the content I do, you can support me for as little as $1 a month, and that helps me to continue to do the work that I do. And you can always share stuff. That helps as well. So please take the time to look at the stories. Think about the things we talked about from Facebook. Is it really the healthiest things that are really good for us as individuals and as free, beautiful, powerful spiritual beings? Is this what we should be using? Is there another tool that we could use, take advantage of? Or is there a way for us to use it without getting sucked in? Also think about what powers do we have whenever these bills pass, and the ways that you can actually take time in your life to change things instead of relying on these systems. And again, maybe we should look into whether or not we trust the EPA and them saying that Monsanto's biggest product is cancer-free, because it seems like they have a lot of money to lose if it is indeed found to be cancerous. And we know how heavily entrenched the U.S. government is with Monsanto. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back to Friday this coming week. Friday, the 29th, will be the way that the day I'll be back on the show. So if you want to keep up with what we're doing here, if you want to follow me, you can keep up with us on the Conscious Resistance Network. You can find me on Twitter at DBrosLiveFree. Check out steemit.com/@DBros. And yeah, thank you guys so much for your support. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.